Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 3 of my Facebook Live, What Every Woman with Chronic Illness Must Know. While people are coming to the room, I want to take care of a few housekeeping issues, so I will give people a chance to come into the room. I want you to remember that I am streaming from StreamYard into Facebook on my pages, Authentically You Academy, and my personal page, Crene Salone. StreamYard is a platform that allows me to stream on different platforms at once. If you would like to comment in the chat, please allow StreamYard access. I am so excited to be here on a Friday afternoon sharing what every woman with chronic illness must know. Like I said, this is day 3 of my 3-day Facebook Live series. Day 1, I had a guest host, Miss Jasmine A. Stith, aka the Pretty Plug. She is an awesome global speaker and brand strategist who did an incredible job of interviewing me. Day 1 was all about introducing myself and telling people who I am and what I do. I encourage everyone to watch the replay on my business page, Authentically You Academy, or my personal page, Crene Salone. This is also streaming on YouTube. The page is Introducing Coach Crene. To recap day 1, for those who may have missed day 1 and 2 and have not yet watched the replay, I am Crene Salone, also known as Coach Crene. I help professional women who live with and suffer from invisible disabilities to enhance their quality of life. I help professional women have longevity in their career, and I bring awareness to invisible chronic illnesses. My results include, but are not limited to, helping women regain their confidence, giving them the tools to live the professional and personal life they desire. I provide the blueprint to help them overcome mental and emotional obstacles that hold them back. When I was 23 years old, I was diagnosed with systemic lupus or lupus. Lupus is an inflammatory autoimmune disease that causes my own immune system to attack my healthy organs, joints, and tissues. I became deathly ill and I spent over a month in the hospital. I was a graduate student at the time, finishing my master's degree, getting ready to start my real adult professional life. Because of my story and my struggles and my successes in my career and personal life, I made the decision to make it my mission to bring awareness to invisible chronic illness and help professional women like myself who are in need of the tools that I offer. Please watch the replay of day 1 to hear more about my story. To recap day 2, I had the pleasure of having the realest talk ever with a powerhouse couple, Azaniah Israel, principal of Sarat Consulting, and Meshar Israel of Digital Marketing Consulting, WSI World. I hope I said that right. They are both digital creators who were so gracious in being vulnerable about the challenges that they experience with Meshar's chronic illness, ADHD. The replay on day 2 is a much watch. We must watch. We dug deep into dispelling myths about ADHD and chronic illnesses in general. We talked about how chronic illnesses impact her husband and the entire family, as well as how important spousal and partner support is to the process of wellness. We talked about ways to get more sleep so that our bodies can repair themselves at the cellular level. Please go back and watch day 2 and download the book. I'm going to drop the link for the book in the chat. I am having this 3-day Facebook Live event to showcase my free ebook named 5 Ways to Deal with Anxiety and Depression Due to Chronic Illness. I'll drop the link in the chat. Please download the free ebook. It is a very useful tool for quick tips. This ebook is a guide on how to deal with anxiety and depression for professional women who live with and suffer from invisible chronic illnesses. Anxiety and depression often go hand in hand, and other times they are separate and mutually exclusive. The tips contained in this ebook do not supersede seeking guidance from medical professionals. These tips work best if you are currently in therapy and have your chronic illness under control and you're ready to move forward with coaching in order to be the best version of yourself while learning to coexist with your chronic illness. If you find yourself dealing with anxiety or depression, these tips are for you. Who wants to have these tools in their arsenal? I know someone does. Drop a yes in the chat. Say, yes, I do in the chat. So today I am flying solo and I want to focus on another tip for those that are struggling with anxiety or depression on top of the physical effects of their chronic illness. It may seem like something insignificant or small, but for women who are struggling, it is an important tool or strategy to have in the toolbox. That is celebrating small successes when you are able to push through the pain and fatigue. Anxiety and depression are ever present, especially in the last 3 years due to COVID. Women who have to be highly functioning on a daily basis often struggle with showing up for all that life demands. There are periods where we withdraw onto ourselves and we need time to cope and recover. I've been in this space myself. It's part of the ebb and flow of life, and I know that there are people watching this that can relate. If you can relate, say so in the chat. Say, yes, I can in the chat. And what I mean by celebrating your successes when you are dealing with anxiety or depression, those seemingly really small things that are often the hardest to do. It's a symptom that comes with depression associated with chronic illness. It's low energy, lack of motivation, loss of interest in daily activities. They're all connected. Fatigue is not just being generally tired or not getting enough sleep. I describe being fatigued as walking through quicksand with bricks on your back. I have clients whose greatest accomplishment is simply getting out of bed to shower. If they can accomplish that while pushing through the pain of their chronic illness and while dealing with their depression, that's great. I've had times that my greatest accomplishment was to brush my teeth, wash my face, and change my clothes, and I'm back in bed. We have to have quick ways of getting our brains to turn on a dopamine response. It's a quick hit that gives us a small boost to get through the day. If you have achieved something that seems so insignificant to someone else, reward yourself by eating that cookie or ordering your favorite pair of earrings you saw online. Maybe you light your favorite candle or spray your favorite perfume. Allow yourself small rewards for huge accomplishments. In my book, I talk about this a lot. So speaking of my book, I am going to finally post the link and give me a second here to do that. So please drop any comments or questions that you may have. So it is lm.crenesalone.com. M I am Crene, which is like Renee with a C in front of it, and you have that link in the chat. Please click on it and download the book and give me your information. I would like for this to be an interactive session if you all have any questions. So again, back to dealing with anxiety and depression, it looks different for everyone. I'm sure if you're watching this, you can agree that what looks like depression for you may not look like depression for someone else. We are starting to see a lot of anxiety, and even myself, in working with young children and having teenagers. Myself, I've seen a lot of anxiety that teens are dealing with, whether it's the pressure of things that are happening on the internet. We see an uptick of competitiveness because they're preparing themselves for college, and the anxiety is there. There are people that are not getting enough sleep because of anxiety. They're up and they're anxious. And again, I said in the beginning that anxiety and depression can often go hand in hand, but they can also often be very mutually exclusive. And it doesn't matter which one you're dealing with, just make sure that you have the right support system to help you get through those times. And again, those small successes you would not believe, even if it's keeping your therapy appointment, that's huge, to not get on the phone and cancel. Or if you had plans on a Friday night, while it may seem counterintuitive, oftentimes being around other people helps. It really does help. Even if you arrive on time and leave early and you don't have to be there at the same time, that's another tool that you can put in your toolbox so that you don't feel alone, so that you don't feel like you have to get through it by yourself. The sun, I talk about seasonal affect disorder all the time. And again, someone who suffers from depression, it can ebb and flow. It can happen during certain times of the year. But going outside and catching the sun, whenever you can, even if it's cold outside. It doesn't have to be summertime, it doesn't have to be warm. I do that a lot. When there's a sunny day, I try not to miss it. I try to go either walking in my neighborhood or even driving in my car if it's too cold to walk. That is just the sun has a way of sometimes uplifting us if we don't want to be around people. And for people who suffer from anxiety and depression, being around people is difficult and they just can't do it. And that's okay. It's okay to not be okay, and self-care looks different for everyone. We talked about this yesterday that self-care is not always, getting a pedicure or getting a manicure or getting your hair done. Sometimes self-care can be taking a nap in the middle of the day because that's just what you need. That's just what you need at that time. Sometimes self-care means not talking to some people that may not give you the energy that you need, that may not give off the correct energy, that may have negative energy. It's enough that we have to control our own self-talk that goes on in our heads, but it's difficult. Well, it's not difficult to just say, "Hey, for this period of time, I'm going to turn my phone off. I don't want to have access to this family member. I don't want this family member or friend to have access to me. So I'm going to make sure that my space has good energy." Yesterday, I talked with Meshar Israel about her chronic illness, and she was very transparent and very vulnerable, about some of the strategies that she used when she needs to kind of shut herself down or calm down. And it was just a great conversation. And I know we hear a lot about mindfulness. Mindfulness is a form of meditation, or it is meditation, short, where you take short breaks in the middle of your workday or on your lunch break. And it's just to breathe, it's just to make sure you breathe and do some stretching exercises. And reward yourself for that. If you are able to take 5 minutes out of your day, maybe 3 times during the day, a total of 15 minutes, and you say, "I'm gonna do 5 minutes of mindfulness in the morning, 5 minutes of mindfulness in the afternoon, and potentially before I go to bed." And that doesn't even require you, if you are in a depressive state, that doesn't even require you to leave your bed. If you need to be in your room and in your bed, it just requires you to not think about your problems, or to try not to think about the next moment, to just be present in the moment that you're in. So that is that tool is very valuable. There I have clients. I had a client who told me that she was in a depressive state and she didn't leave the house. She didn't want to talk to anybody, but one thing she did was she decided that she had some leftover ingredients. She had some overripe bananas, and she just started baking. She started baking and she had no idea what she was going to do with this banana bread. I think she made sweet potato pie, banana bread, and she had baked a whole bunch of items. She had no idea what she was going to do with those items, but ultimately, she ended up giving it away to a shelter. But in that moment, when she was locked in her house and not able to talk to anybody and didn't feel like going out, she found something that was therapeutic for herself. And the reward was to be able to give that to a homeless shelter and to be able to serve other people. And that made her feel good. That gave her a boost as well. So no matter what type of chronic illness you deal with, I guarantee you that it likely comes with chronic pain. It likely comes with the fatigue, and the pain is different for everyone and how they do it. I'll share a little bit more about my story in that I've been on a steroid for 25 years. This year will make 25 years that I was diagnosed with systemic lupus. And there are many things that I have done to improve my health and reverse some of the symptoms that I used to have when I was younger, and now that I'm older. And I tell people all the time is the enemy of us all. Everyone, whether you are perfectly healthy, you've never had a cold in your life, you don't have a chronic illness, time is the enemy of us all. We are all fighting time. Our bodies are not the same. At your body at 27 is not the same at 25. It really happens in small increments. It happens in small increments. So that was my phone, so just ignore that. I actually forgot to turn off the ringer, which I normally do when I'm going live, but that's what happens when you're live. Things happen. But what I was saying, what was I saying? So, time. Your body at 25 was not the same as it was at 23. Your body at 27 is not the same as 25. Your body at 30 is not the same as 37. People think about these big gaps in time, but really it happens in very, very small increments. So dealing with a chronic illness at 23 and having some of the issues that I had and not even understanding, probably for the first 10 years, I didn't understand that I was off sometimes in a depressive state because I would say, "No, that's not me. I'm not depressed." I don't see a therapist. I don't take medicine. I don't do those things, and I'm not depressed. But as I got older, I learned that people respond to depression differently. For me, I do withdraw somewhat, but a lot of times when I'm not happy or when I feel like I'm, in a low place, I try to do things to boost my dopamine. I shop. I like to shop. And I have two closets worth of depression. I have 3 closets of nothing to wear, and as counterintuitive as it sounds, that's just how some people deal with their depression. But when I was younger, I did not acknowledge that because I didn't know and I didn't understand. It took some years, it took some maturity. It actually took me to be in relationship. It took me to get married and have other stressors like marriage and children and moving and changing jobs. And I hear that a lot. Mayshar even talked about that, talked about being in a state where, overwhelm. And when you have different stressors with your chronic illness, sometimes you feel like you can't move. The overwhelm makes you paralyzed. And when you become paralyzed, you can slip into a depressive state. And when you do that, again, going back to what the rewards can be different for everybody. And I just really love when I hear my clients say, "Look, I know that I have to show up. I have to show up for my job. I have to show up for my children. I have to show up for my organizations. And when I get done doing all that, I'm wiped out." And so they have to have tools and to understand how to deal with that. And so my ebook, Ways to Deal with Anxiety and Depression Due to Chronic Illness. The link is in the chat. Again, it's L as in Larry, M as in Mary, .carnesalone.com. So please click on the link and download that information. It will be very valuable. Share it with others. And the messaging really is to let people know that they're not alone and to bring awareness to invisible chronic illnesses. I would like to go into companies to educate them and give trainings because how my coworkers experience me is a different than how my husband and my children experience me. And the word invisible means that I oftentimes don't feel like I look. Most people with chronic illnesses are very good at hiding it. And particularly when you are young, and when I was young, people accuse you of not telling the truth, or they just can't look at you and believe that you have physical ailments, you have emotional ups and downs, and they don't validate you, or don't know how to be empathetic. So again, if you can relate to that, please drop that in the chat. Let me know that you're here. Make sure that you are sharing this video with other people. Other people need to know that they're not alone and that there is a blueprint, there is a way so that you don't have to go through some of the things that I went through. Over the course of 25 years, I have learned and I have been able to package all that I have learned where I did things wrong, where if I knew what if I knew then what I knew now, I probably didn't have to go through some of the things I went through. The first 10 years of my diagnosis, I was a single woman. And so if I didn't work, I didn't eat. I had to make sure that I showed up for my life. I had to make sure that, my body was in condition to do what I had to do. I traveled a lot. I traveled constantly. And not only did I just travel, I traveled the world. I had opportunities to go on the other side of the world and back. The very first time I went out of the country, I went to Sydney, Australia. I went to Australia, Singapore, and Japan all in one trip. I was gone for 9 days, I believe. And I did a significant amount of traveling when I was young. I even, when I was younger, I even lived outside of the country for 2 years. I lived in Toronto. And traveling is very difficult, even when you're young. It's hard on the body, it's hard to get rest. The weekends that I stayed home or when I came home, I crashed. Sometimes I had to take some vacation days on the back end of my business travel. And I always turned my business travel into um, personal travel, into pleasure on the back end because I really wanted to experience wherever I was or whatever country I was in. So again, taking care of myself, I had to learn that along the way. It wasn't something that I just knew how to do. When you are first given a diagnosis of having a chronic illness, you can be in shock and denial. Because I tell people all the time, denial is a real place. It is a real place. Denial is like a city, a state, and a country, and your mind will keep you there for a while, especially when you are young. I say all the time that youth will kill you because we don't think, we deny, we don't believe that this can be happening to us. And I had to learn a lot of things the hard way on how to take care of myself. And part of that learning was not sharing, was to keep it to myself. I never shared with early on in my career with my management, with my leaders about my chronic illness because you don't want to give someone a reason to think you're less than. It's born out of fear. I am Black, I'm a woman. And so we often have to work 3 times as hard just to be seen as equal, just to say she's smart, she's capable, she can do this job. So the last thing I wanted to do in my early on in my career was to disclose that I had an invisible chronic illness that, could impact me in some ways. I'm too busy trying to prove myself and trying to make sure that I am being the best me that I could be, but all the while, I'm kind of ducking and I'm kind of turning corners and, not really explaining why certain things happen. I would go on vacation and I would come back sick because I didn't understand and my doctors told me. But again, I was in denial. I didn't want to listen. It didn't make sense to me that the sun is not my friend. And so I would go and bathe in the sun on whatever island or vacation that I went on, and then I come back sick and can't work. And then I come back and have to take 2 or 3 days off work because I need a vacation from my vacation. So, I would like to help women, professional women, so that they don't have to go through that. Again, chronic illness looks different for everybody. We all don't have the same chronic illness, but I tell you, the emotional effects, the physical effects with fatigue and pain, it's all the same. It's all the same. And so we have to learn how to deal with that so that we can have peace and have longevity in our career. A lot of us, we have a long time to work. I'm not rich. I don't have a rich uncle, auntie, or grandma. I have to work just like the rest of us. And we're professionals. We want to be able to provide for our families. We want to be able to say that we are contributing to something. But in order to do that, we have to be healthy. We do. We have to have a modicum of health. We have to be serious about it. We have to be willing to make some changes. And for me, that was the number one thing I had to learn. And that came with maturity, just to be quite honest, maturity and, you know, God allowing me to wake up every day. And every day that I woke up was a brand new day that I learned something. Every day I woke up was a brand new day to give me an opportunity to make a different choice. Every day was an opportunity for me to get to know myself. I had to start to mourn the person that I thought I was or the person that I thought I was going to be. There's a mourning process that goes with that, and I had to reimagine what my life would look like. I had to reimagine and think about if I met someone or if I met a man or if I started considering marriage, what would he think about that? Would I meet someone that would provide the right support for that? And I did. I did. And again, I am here to help women get through that and give them the tools to have the confidence to know, to have the mental and emotional confidence to know you can reimagine your life. You might have to do things differently. You definitely are going to have to commit to making different choices, but you can have the life that you have reimagined if you are serious about moving forward. And moving forward means understanding that sometimes you will be depressed, and that's okay. That's okay. Know that. Uh, being sometimes having a chronic illness, you feel lonely. People think that having a family or having people around you means that loneliness doesn't come. Being alone and being lonely are completely two different things. You can be in a house full of people, you can have a gaggle of friends, you can be in a room full of people, and you can still be lonely. Loneliness finds everyone, whether you have a full fledged family, whether you have a partner or a spouse, or whether you are single. Loneliness is a state of mind. It's truly a state of mind. And I just when I think about that, you hear famous people or singers or artists when they look back on their life and they actually talk about and they're used to crowds and they're used to people and agents and entourages and friends and family, and yet they when they're able to reflect on their lives, what they say is, I was so lonely. I was lonely. I went through periods where I felt like I had no one. So loneliness is literally a state of mind. It is not um not having the absence the presence of people around you, or the presence of family, or the presence of a spouse. In marriage, couples experience loneliness, and you would think, how does that happen? They have each other. Well, it's an emotional state of mind. So knowing that you can still push through that, knowing that you can have the tools to set yourself up and be realistic about life's expectations. A lot of people just have a lot of unrealistic expectations about life. Know that you're going to experience loneliness and have the tools to get through that. Know that there are times where you're going to go through depression, and it's okay, but know that you have the tools to get through it. There are many things that are gonna make us anxious, but again, setting the expectations of life is key. So that those are the things that I provide, because I've been there, and it has been 25 years for me. I can't even believe it. I keep saying it, but yeah, if I do that math, that's 98. It happened in 1998, and it is 2003, so that is a quarter of a century. It's a it's a quarter of a century. So, and yeah, so I've learned a lot. There are some moments where I feel like I'm failing, but I have to look back on where I've been and what I've done. So, again, please drop a comment if you have questions and click on my link. It is L as in Larry, M as in Mary, .cornesalone.com. Please go there to download the free ebook and let me know what you think about it. I have exercises at the end of each section or at the end of each tip. It asks you a question, it gives you a challenge, and it gives my email. So please reach out to me if you would like to connect. But today, since I'm flying solo, I am keeping it short. Yesterday, we went well, the first day we went just under an hour because I had a host who was interviewing me, and yesterday I had two awesome people, and the conversation just kept going. I'm gonna give you all, I'm gonna share a little secret. I'm not a fan of the camera, but I know that there are people who need to hear what I have to say. So I am challenging myself to connect with my audience more, to let you all know what I'm here and what I do. And I feel like my story is important. But here's the thing, everybody has a story. Everybody does. But I just want you to let you all know that your story is important as well. How your story ends doesn't have to be how it began. And so I am here to help people through that. And I want to connect with my audience. I want to let you know what I have to offer. And right now, I'm starting with my free ebook. And so you can tell me what you think about it. Please send me an email. You can visit my website, which is my name, www.cornesalone.com. I have a personal Facebook page, and I encourage everybody to look me up. It's my full name. You know, I want everybody to see how I live my life. And I know that everything we post on the internet is great and fabulous, but I try to be as transparent as possible with these videos. Sometimes I don't feel good, and I do, and I let people know that. I make content centered around that. But at the same time, I also want you to see the days where I'm looking fabulous, but I guarantee you every time I don't feel fabulous. So, and again, people who deal with chronic illnesses are very, very crafty at hiding it or masking it because we have to get through the day. We have to get through the event. I have a senior. I have three sons. I have one who's 21 and out of the house. He is serving his country in the United States Air Force. I have a senior in high school. My middle son is a senior in high school. So I have a lot going on. I'm calling it senior fever. He has a lot going on. He's a great kid, good student, and we have events to go to, we have ceremonies to go to, we have to prepare for graduation. And if my life wasn't interesting enough, I have a 13-year-old son who is just a party all by himself. So please pray for me because when his brother leaves, it'll just be him. So if anyone has ever had teenagers or have them now or have had them, just pray for me because it is definitely going to be a journey. But I invite you all to visit my personal page, Cornea Salone, and my business page, Authentically You Academy. And I'm going to sign off on this Friday afternoon. I might even decide to go reward myself for making this video and go find somebody's happy hour and, just sit with myself for a while. But thank you all for joining. I appreciate it. Please, please, I want to encourage you to go back and look at the replay for day one and also look at the replay for day two. And I thank everyone who joined. I appreciate you and look forward to these more often. I'm going to try to have an event at least once a week. and maybe even a master class coming up so that I can share more about what I do and just kind of drop quick tips for you all to help out. So you all have a wonderful Friday evening and a fabulous weekend. And Coach Cornay is signing off, and I will talk to you all soon. Check out the broadcast. Get the book.